I got this one hilarious email, which was, "Hey Luke, really enjoyed your WhatsApp MCP. I always wish there was a local version of WhatsApp I could query locally. I wish I built it when I was there." And I was like, "Oh, who's this guy, Jan?" I Google him. It's turns out he's the founder of WhatsApp. Oh, wow.
This conversation with Luke was so interesting and so inspiring. Here's someone who's at the very heart of one of the hottest companies, ElevenLabs, a company revolutionizing voice AI right now. Yet he's constantly experimenting, building, and sharing practical tools that anyone can learn from. He's built some of the most popular MCP servers that are out there, and he takes us under the hood of one of them, the WhatsApp MCP server, the tech, the launch, how he built it, the feedback he's gotten. He also shows a very useful iPhone shortcut that can really enable all sorts of useful applications. It's elegant and surprisingly powerful. And then finally, we dive into ElevenLabs' latest APIs, which I think most people aren't familiar with, that allow you to create a full RAG stack with your own data and a webhook back to do virtually anything you need. So voice agents in a few clicks. Honestly, it was really cool and very worthwhile. I think you're going to love this conversation. Here we go. Hello, AI Tinkerers, and welcome to One Shot. This is our global stage where we talk to people who are working on the very frontiers of generative AI in some way. I'm thrilled we're here today with Luke Harries of ElevenLabs, who itself is a leader, obviously, in Gen AI and a huge growth story and an amazing innovator. But Luke himself also is an incredible tinkerer with an enormous toy box of cool contraptions and things he's built. So we'll look at a couple of those today. But welcome, Luke.
Thank you. Excited to be here, Joe.
It's really wonderful. Let's dive in. You lead growth at ElevenLabs, and I immediately think marketing, but you are not a marketer. You're a pretty hardcore techie.
Yeah, so I've been coding since I was 12, 13. I have a weird background where I ended up in medical school for a few years, but spent all my time building. Yeah. And then, basically was hacking around on my own projects, and then Matty phoned me up. Matty, the founder of ElevenLabs, and I actually met during a hackathon ourselves about 9 years ago, stayed in touch. Oh, wow. And he phoned me up going, "Luke, ElevenLabs is growing very quickly. We need someone to join and do all the growthy things." Yeah. And I was like, well, I've never really done the growthy things before, but I'm up for learning it. You clearly are trying to figure you out from the outside, and what's on the web is it's a Renaissance story, right? It's you're studying pre-med, but you also created some sports platform with code. Yes. It was obviously you're a builder. And tell me more about that one just really quick. I mean, that one was, so I was playing rugby.
You were at Cambridge.
At Cambridge,
right?
Yeah. And I was playing rugby, captaining what's called the Lions team, the third team, playing for the second. Okay. And it was my job to organise all the rugby leagues. Yeah. And when I was handed over this, it was literally before we were playing finals matches, not realising the points difference mattered. Yeah. And I first MVP of it was an incredibly complex Google Sheets with app scripts running in the background. And then I was like, this is actually quite useful. So turned into a full platform web app. Scaled that across.
Was that your first? I mean, if you were coding since a kid, was it the first time you got this sort of endorphin rush feedback loop from real usage, or would you have that?
I think that was the first one. I built a bunch of iPhone apps for myself, but none of them I properly got out in front of users. Yeah.
And then you went on, you graduated and did not go into med at all. You did software engineering, consulting, it looks like. You also did some ML. You started getting into the deeper end of the things. It's cancer research work?
Biotech stuff.
Biotech stuff, but ML.
Yes, yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and then, using image models.
Was that around the time that you met the ElevenLabs founders at the hackathon?
Yeah. When I was 19.
Well before ElevenLabs. Okay. And then you also did, so again, this Renaissance background with lots of interests, but also united by building and tinkering. You were a YC founder? You were head of growth or product at PostHog?
Yes.
Okay. And that's one where it's I think PostHog's story is partly every Y Combinator company just used them. That was there.
Yeah, I was moving on from my previous company. Yeah. I phoned up Dalton, our YC group partner, and I was like, Dalton, what should I do? I'm working out my next move. He's like, PostHog's in London. They're doing pretty cool stuff. You should chat with them.
There you go, the power of community.
Exactly.
You jump in with a community where great things are happening. You can always jump ship or do something or combine forces. So you don't know what's going to take off.
No.
Right? But you're in the middle of it. That's really cool. Let's talk about the tinkering. I want to see something like, I know you've done a bunch of stuff that blew up pretty recently on Twitter with MCP.
Yes.
Again, it became popular to kind of talk about MCP, and you were like, oh, I need to go build something. So what did you build?
Yeah, well, a little bit of the backstory.
Yeah.
I did a tweet. The funky thing I think about the current wave of AI is there's so much innovation on like the business and B2B side, but the consumer side is terrible. And I think it's just because there's companies like Meta and Google who own the consumer interfaces, who are fantastic at AI, but just like seemingly aren't shipping the product. So I did this tweet, which is like, I think you can basically solve consumer AI by connecting a AI agent to your WhatsApp, your calendar, and your Gmail. And if you do that, you basically have the entire context on someone's life, as well as actually being able to execute actions, because you could create group chats, you could send emails, you have all their invoices. Cool. So I tweeted this being like, why has no one done it? And I thought about it a little more, and I was like, well, the hard bit's actually the WhatsApp bit. So like, how do you connect WhatsApp to AI? So that's where I was like, okay, I wonder if I can actually do this.
What makes that hard?
Hole. Well, the hard bit is WhatsApp has business APIs, but it doesn't have personal APIs. And so just being able to query your messages is actually surprisingly difficult, or send messages.
Interesting. They don't have just a basic API for like search.
No, it's very like walled garden.
Interesting. So how did you get in?
Yeah, so I went down a couple of different routes, like basically, did the long tail search of GitHub repos powered by deep research. And the first time I tried, there's this protocol called Matrix, which tries to abstract all the different messaging apps into one. It's like very cool open source project. Beeper was built on top of it. So I tried to get that running and build on top of that abstraction. But I'm not sure if it was me or the docs, but that was a disaster. And this was all on a Saturday, by the way. So I did like an hour trying Matrix. And then I was like, well, okay, what's actually underneath Matrix? Oh, there's this cool Go library, which is written, called What's Meow. And I was like, I wonder if that works. And so I pulled up Cursor, hacking away. I'd never written Go in my life. And just like with Cursor, managed to get my first goal was like, can I get a local copy of my WhatsApp messages on my computer so I can do all the querying? And so we wrote, I say we, me and Cursor, me and Claude 3.5, wrote this thing so when it connects, the library connects to the WhatsApp device API, so it pretends to be the browser client. And actually, when you start the client, the first thing it does is load all your messages. So we wrote a hook in order to just save those into the SQLite database. And I was like, okay, great, I've done that. But I don't like Go, and I don't really know Go that well. So then I was like, okay, let me spin up like a simple Python MCP client for that. This was when MCP became the rage, and I was like, okay, maybe this could actually be a really cool interface to query it. So then the Python and the Go library are just connecting to the SQL client. And then the next thing I did was expose the ability to send messages. So it actually has a little local host server where the Go and the Python library chat. And I built this like basically on the Saturday, showed my girlfriend on the Sunday, or my now wife, showed my wife, and funnily enough, my mum. And I was like, oh, look, I can send a message. That's pretty cool. And my wife was like, nice, like, but what are you going to do with it? I was like, oh, maybe, I've learned a few things about launching products. Maybe I should actually launch it. Maybe a brief side note for all the tinkerers out there is like, I actually find launching your own products so much harder than launching your company products. Because when it's your own product, it's like your ego. You wrote this. You're putting yourself out there. But I was like, oh, well, just like lock in for an hour, made a quick video, wrote a tweet thread, and launched it. And I think quite early on we got a retweet from Gary Tan. And that was the first initial spike. And then it very quickly got 1,000, 2,000 stars and then plateaued.
Yeah,
So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, what other channels could I share
Yeah.
it on? So I wrote a Hacker News post, and then that took it like past 3,000 stars.
Cool.
And then there's been a few things after that. But the biggest thing was like, I genuinely didn't think anyone else would use it.
Yeah.
But kind of the learning from myself. And do you know Simon Willison?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. He has fantastic blog.
Oh, yeah.
And one of his pieces was always like, you owe it to yourself for every project you do to just write about it. So I saw it as like, okay, let's launch it, get it out there. And it's been really cool to see all these different people using it.
Well, I have a lot of questions about your motivations going in and then what has actually happened since with the usage.
Yes.
I'll have to tell you, last night I did install it. It was a very simple process. I found it pretty elegant. Kind of you launch it and it's like, oh, I need to index, and it's clearly doing a sync.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of output, which is itself kind of fun.
Yes.
Because I'm
Yeah,
like,
you see
oh
the
yeah,
stream come
some
through.
real private messages of some close friends, and then there's like crypto spam groups that I got added to and I haven't left yet, whatever. And then there's like a group chat, and you get a sense of like you're reliving your recent conversation just by looking at the logs.
Yes.
And then it's ready, and it's clearly ready to be used. Of course, getting MCP set up with a client is a little bit of a technical exercise.
Yes.
But it worked perfectly. And then first thing I did was like summarize all my recent conversations. And there it was, you're on a crypto spam list, and looks like you're talking about this with these people, and breakfast with Luke tomorrow, whatever. And it was great. And I was a little scared to use it to send messages. I'm not a heavy user, and I was, but I could tell like this is interesting. The simplicity of these things. A bunch of questions technically, I guess, before we get to the motivations, are like, where is the data going? When it's in my WhatsApp app and it's encrypted.
Yes.
Now I'm on MCP. I've installed your thing. It's part of it's running on my laptop. Part of it's inferring in the cloud.
Well, no, actually, the only thing it's running is, so it uses the WhatsApp device API.
Yeah.
So it speaks directly to WhatsApp.
Okay.
And all your messages are on your computer. They
So it'll be the exact same. The auth was a great step, by the way. The QR code that spits out the terminal. Yeah. That was cool.
Yeah.
Worked great.
I don't know how Cursor did that, but it worked out.
It was really, so it's like,
at first it printed out a raw string, and I was like, turn it into QR code, and it did.
Just for people who don't know what we're talking about, you install the server and run it. It does its indexing, and then it literally prints on the terminal output a QR code.
Yes.
And you scan, and that's the auth for WhatsApp.
Yes.
Okay, so now I have a secure connection, and I'm connecting via that secure connection from my laptop directly to WhatsApp.
Yeah, it
just like they would
impersonates the
their own
browser WhatsApp web.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so then when I issue a query in Claude,
yes,
and it says, okay, I need to call this tool or do this MCP call. What's happening then?
Yeah, so the vast majority of read calls, it's already got all the messages saved in this local SQLite.
Makes sense.
And so it can just query. And so the cool thing is, like, WhatsApp's very precious and fantastic service, but you really don't want to get blocked by it.
Yeah.
And so you can do like as much querying as you want this local SQLite bit. And that's all local. And then when you come to send messages, that's when it actually like fires back through WhatsApp web. There's a few other cool bits, which is...
What about the info? If I said, summarize my conversations, are you taking all that SQLite cache and pushing it up to somewhere?
So the way that the MCP interface works is you expose tools. And so one of the tools is query my messages.
Yep.
And it like literally just, you can pass in filters. So it's like, who's it from, date range, keywords, blah, blah, blah. And so your MCP client, like Claude, will write that query.
Yeah.
It will get those messages, but it just goes back to your Claude.
So Claude in the cloud, though, is going to compute on my WhatsApp messages.
It does.
So those are the trust factors I have to trust.
But you're actually specifying, like, yes, run this query.
Yeah.
And then it gets in, returns it. And the step, like, I've left as an exercise to the reader is, like, you can make it fully secured by doing instead of using Claude, you could use a local LLM, which then, like, they're never leaving your personal computer. But yes, at the moment, it does the messages you explicitly tell it to search, it will search and expose to Claude.
I'm jumping a couple steps ahead for a second. The thing that I immediately saw from it, going back to your original tweet around email, WhatsApp, and calendar, was to build a Claude or an MCP server.
Yes.
Or client, sorry. I want to build a client in my server infrastructure that uses this MCP WhatsApp interface behind the scenes as part of an app that is providing a service.
Yes.
So I want to automate part of my WhatsApp interfacing with my community or my business or for my business
Yeah.
as me,
Yes.
natively as me,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
with agents, right?
So that's why I actually built first.
Yeah.
And so the way I built it is I was if you look at the code,
We should look at the code.
Yeah, I can show you the code briefly. So yeah, what you've got here, you've got this bridge, which is all the Go files, and you've got the MCP server, and so these are all the Python files. And if you look, I've actually have an abstraction whereby WhatsApp.py is all the like business logic, but then there's a very thin wrapper in main.py, which just takes each of the functions in WhatsApp.py, adds a nice arg string, and adds a @mcp.tool, which is just like a Python client to expose it. But what this does is it makes it very easy for your MCP clients to access your MCP tools. But what's interesting about this MCP system is it's actually mainly set up for like human interaction in the loop doing approvals.
Yeah.
I don't think really anyone's using MCP clients in a fully automated way. But why I've done it this way is you can actually wrap all these WhatsApp.py tools and instead just expose them to any other LLM framework. So another like experiment I did with this was you can connect it to the OpenAI agents SDK and you can just pass those in. So I think and then it's like a very clear, it's like any agentic system can call it in the loop.
Sure. Yeah, cool. Which, I mean, makes sense. I don't want to always be in the loop for things that are clearly trivial.
No. What's quite nice is like when most of the usage is exactly as you said. It's like people normally in group chats, often in places like Brazil or India where lots of like businesses or groups are running on it. So you can imagine you have like a fitness WhatsApp group or a voice AI WhatsApp group. And you want to basically like do a roundup of all the messages of the last week. Like you can kind of run that. But exactly like someone like you who's a tinkerer would probably actually like, okay, I've done that once. Now how do I actually put that in the loop?
Yeah, it makes sense. And I want sort of something that's, especially in WhatsApp, there's lots of groups I'm part of that I'm not going to be spending my entire day watching every thread.
Yes.
But occasionally there's a thread that breaks out that I definitely want to pay attention to.
And what's very cool as well is like the advanced search.
Yeah.
So you could you're in a bunch of WhatsApp groups and you're like, what's the coolest things happening about MCP or conversational AI? And you just ask it. It will do the search and then do the roundup for you and then synthesize it all together.
Yeah. One of the groups I'm on is doing that. I'm wondering if they're using your MCP.
It may well be.
Yeah.
But the hard stuff, truthfully, is this what's meow bit under the hood. This is, I basically just done the nice.
Do you worry about being blocked?
So
you won't be blocked, but the user of it will.
Yeah, the bit, I need to add a risks bit to this repo. But I think read is very, pretty safe. Yeah. And it's also, if you think about the spirit of WhatsApp, it's like not actually going, you're just reading your messages and querying your messages. I think the mass sending, though, that is scary.
Yeah.
And you should be careful if you're trying to do WhatsApp.
And I mean, some kind of high-level conceptual view, these businesses, WhatsApp and et cetera, were designed for human interaction.
Yes.
And we may build agentic systems that use those pretending to be humans, but the business is disrupted, right?
Yeah.
At some level.
Yeah.
So they're not going to like that, or they're going to have to adapt.
Yes.
And there's going to be a cat and mouse. Actually 2 weeks ago, for the first time, we've all seen lots of captchas. I saw a crazy one. This captcha made me listen to 3 bits of sound and tell what I was listening to.
Wow.
So it was like, which one of the 4 clips is water running? I had to listen to 4 clips and choose ABC. And I had to do that exercise 3 times. It took forever to get through this caption. I can only imagine because of, they obviously really don't want robots. Now, robots are coming. What's going to happen with all these wonderful –
I think first of all is if you think about the spirit of WhatsApp of MCP is like it is human in the loop.
Yeah.
And so if you're, say, a business in Brazil – and you're sending out invoices over WhatsApp, currently that's incredibly clunky.
Yeah.
But now you could connect your WhatsApp MCP with your Salesforce MCP.
Yeah.
And like you can actually there be orchestrating that. I think your side note, which is really interesting, is like what actually does the future of communication look like in a world where AI is at par? I personally really like where the WorldCoin direction is going. I'm not sure if you've scanned your eyeball, but it's some pretty cool privacy stuff of like you scan your eyeball, you uniquely prove that you are one human, and then you could build a messaging protocol on top, which is like, okay, what's a reasonable number of messages for a human to send? Okay, it's in the hundreds but not the thousands. And then you can also like punish bad actors who are overly extending their message systems or sending spam.
Yeah, interesting. There's something there. There's clear trade-offs. I don't know if you're aware, but in the U.S., if you're on global entry system, when you go back to the U.S. from overseas, you walk up. It's the best experience of this genre that I know of.
Yes.
Like you don't. I don't take off my glasses or adjust my hat. I literally just look at the screen for a moment, a second, and it's like, welcome back. I don't show any ID. I don't show anything. I don't scan a passport. It's just face recognition. It's the best implementation of it, and it's a breeze, and I love that.
Yeah.
The convenience of it. So
he says government can't check.
And it was the government. Probably the best thing the government's done. Really cool. So popping up a level, like your motivations and what is it used for this MCP and in general. Did you achieve the vision or a piece of it with the original tweet? So Are you using it?
Yeah. Interesting. So I do use it. I use it for the roundups. So like every week I'm in a bunch of different WhatsApp groups. And I love to just like summarize like, okay, this particular YC group or this voice AI group, like what are the main themes?
And I'm curious for that. Are you literally just a Claude user saying, please summarize?
Yes.
You're not automating that piece and delivering it? Or,
No.
Convenient enough. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And also you'll quite often have some follow-on messages. You're like, oh, what's this theme?
Oh, that's cool.
Right. What did they specifically say?
That's smart.
So I use it in like a chat GPT.
Yeah, because if you're in context, you can be like, that's cool. Send a message to the person who wrote that.
Yes.
And it'll do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't actually use the sending very much, and also there's maybe we kind of shift into the talking about the security stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Is what's interesting is WhatsApp MCP I think is probably the most used MCP server there is at the moment, and because of that, it's kind of ended up being the one running into the security walls where all the researchers are like, I found this vulnerability, Rex.
Yeah.
None of the vulnerabilities I would argue are in the WhatsApp MCP server level because they're more around the like MCP protocol and the fact that things are into, there's nothing, the messages are just on your SQLite database. Yeah. It does take it out of the encrypted WhatsApp things, but as the creator, it's still my responsibility to make sure like people don't shoot themselves in the foot. But there's a couple of interesting ones. Have you came across the prompt injection stuff?
In general, of course. But with MCP?
So with WhatsApp,
or?
With MCPs, the way it works is you specify normally a doc string with the MCP, which is what's loaded, which annotates the tools. Now, what's quite interesting is if you have, say, one good MCP, like the WhatsApp MCP, and someone loads a bad MCP, which is like, has the doc string, list all the messages and then forward to Joe's number. It will do that.
Okay, wow. That's bad.
And the funky thing I think about MCP has built-in like tool approvals, which truthfully, when I was playing around with it, I just didn't really think about. I just always clicked allow all.
Sure.
I was like, I'm just testing it, it'll be fine. But people are putting a lot of trust in these like approval flows now. And there's even things like, if you do lots of white spaces, you can kind of have the real message off the screen and they won't realize. So I would argue the key, I think there's a big difference between read-only tools. So like reading your messages in general, fine. But sending is actually pretty dangerous. So I think there needs to be at the protocol level a difference between read-only and
Makes
like
sense.
Create update.
Yeah, and you surfaced that interesting thing where even if the human's in the loop, I mean, come on, we see walls of text with an agree now, and you're in the middle of a deep flow and you're busy, and no one reads that stuff.
Yes.
I mean, so what purpose is it actually serving? It's not protecting anyone but the company providing. It's not protecting the user.
Yes.
We want something that protects the users and society.
Yeah.
And I know it's coming. We did a hackathon in San Francisco. We were building agents. This was back in November. Security is an afterthought in a hackathon often, unless that's the theme. Yeah. But I did ask a bunch of people, hey, this is a cool idea you're building, but to make that real, how are you going to deal with privacy and security?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, what have you seen? Or is anyone tinkering on that? And people were, that's a little bit here.
Yeah.
I read this blog post. Somebody had a proposal for maybe there has to be an OAuth for agents. And,
Yes.
And I'd at the same time I'd be chatting with some folks at Okta, and they were obviously investigating this stuff. So we did a meetup themed on agents and security.
Very cool.
Got the community to build and talk, but more questions than answers at this point.
Yeah.
It's very early.
There's an interesting thing whereby, actually, I think MCPs are, if you think about this WhatsApp MCP, everything's on your own computer.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually way more secure than the vast majority of cloud applications where the developer has read access to the DB.
Yeah.
So, what's pretty cool is it's kind of somewhat private by default,
Mm-hmm.
and, a lot more than lots of things.
Sure.
And when I was starting to think, okay, how could I actually do, a hosted version of this so you're not needing to, basically non-technical users can do it.
So you don't install Go?
Yes, so you don't have to install Go or UV. And what I landed on was what I would really love is a cloud environment which is end-to-end encrypted on the user's behalf, where you can execute the code. And I don't think it's, this is still an early thought, but what's cool is when you run something in your own AWS or Azure or GCP, you have full control of the execution and the data. And I would love if with MCPs there was some way where you almost have your own hosted environment that you fully run, that you're approving the updates, that you do some reasonable payrolls. So, but
the meetup I mentioned that was security focused, the top rated presenter, was a person from Tanya, from a company called Tinfoil. They do this.
Oh, really?
Secure end-to-end enclaves, cryptographically secure to the hardware layer.
That's very cool.
And with a co-founder from MIT is a world expert in that and knows everyone in that niche within PhD computer science. And they're building the company on that. They were a few months away from. Later, I caught up with them. We actually did an episode of One Shot with Tanya because it was so good to hear about this. And that seems to be the itch that they're scratching.
Yes.
Exactly what you described.
Yeah.
And then we sat down to do the interview, and they're like, we just got into IC yesterday. It was great timing. So pulling full circle on a lot of these things. That's an interesting thing.
I think either that or could we just get running on smartphones? And actually, the company I'd love
local
to
AI.
see,
of course.
The company I'd love to see the most just doing this is Apple, because I think Apple has everything set up for them, but we're not there just yet.
It's a laugh. I am frustrated using wonderful tools like Whisper and Super Whisper on my Mac to transcribe, and I'm addicted to that.
Well,
I use it for everything.
That maybe takes us nicely into the second hack I'd love to show.
Well, now we got ElevenLabs getting in there too, but
yes,
and we will. But I'm so addicted to using transcription in that modality now that I can't use Apple. It's terrible.
No,
Apple cannot spell the word hackathon.
Yes,
Apple will take the word there and use the wrong version of it in a sentence.
I know.
It just an LLM can't even make that mistake if you try to
and you
get
spend
it
more time tapping around in the message to try and rewrite
while you're
it.
walking and it's terrible. Now let's talk about let's go to the next topic. We're talking about voice now.
So I was literally ran into the exact issue we're talking about, and I haven't actually demoed this to Joe just yet. So ElevenLabs, we were initially famous for our text-to-speech models, where we were the first company to cross this threshold of human-like speech. We more recently shipped the best speech-to-text model, which is the highest quality translation. And so what I was actually having lunch with my wife, and we're waiting for the bill, and I was like, how is iPhone dictation so bad? And I was like, surely there's a way where I can just speak into it, I can transcribe it with ElevenLabs. I can then just clean up the raw transcript and then paste it back in. And so what I thought was interesting, I was like, oh, okay, how could I do that? Do I need to build an app? I was like, well, Apple Shortcuts is the thing.
Oh, yeah.
How far can I push Apple Shortcuts?
Yeah.
So the way I've set it up is all you do is you hold down the action button. Or
wow, you can assign that to be a shortcut.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So you hold down the action button. Hey, Joe. Really excited to do our podcast called One Shot this coming week. Can't wait to see you on Friday. Can't wait to see you on Friday. Best wishes, Luke.
10 a.m., not 9 a.m.
And the way it works, you can see in the top right here, it's now processing that shortcut.
Cool.
It then sends it to ElevenLabs, sends it to OpenAI to clean up the transcript, and then you can just paste it in. And here we've got, "Hey Joe, really excited to do our podcast called One Shot this coming week. Can't wait to see you on Friday. Best wishes, Luke." And it's all cleaned up, great communication. You can click send.
Well, I'm going to definitely get that set up.
Yes,
because Siri is driving me crazy.
The one, I mean, this is maybe a brief tangent, but like Apple Shortcuts is so powerful.
It is,
And the latest hack I've been trying to do is like, I've realized, well, one is like, if you can just hold down the button, do a voice note, and then execute actions, wow, that's powerful for so many follow-on tasks. The other really cool one, though, is the vision models have got so good. Like, why not hold it down? That triggers a shortcut which takes a screenshot, sends that to an LLM to work out the next step. So you basically have this like full context, super smart AI assistant.
That's a good idea.
So you could do like, we're chatting, you're like, I need it to draft a reply. You just hold it down, takes the screenshot, does the reply for you, paste it back in.
You know those apps? You know the apps that'll do a long screenshot of a scroll all the way?
Yes.
So imagine that. Now I'm giving the LLM the context, and then I'm the voice of instruction.
Yeah.
Hey, take this page, make an email to this, send it to Luke, ask him a couple of questions about the blog post.
That'd be very cool. Maybe we should hack that.
Let's do it.
10 minutes after. But honestly, you could. The only trick, I don't know if you can get that long screenshot in most apps. It only seems some apps actually support that.
Yeah,
but even the stuff on the screen, it's probably enough.
It's probably enough for most cases. You can always zoom out or pinch to zoom.
One other side point is I worked out that ChatGPT can actually generate Apple shortcuts.
Yeah.
And there's an annoying bit whereby you have to sign it. So you have to generate it on your Mac. You then have to run a sign command. But then if you click the link, you then have it instantly loaded in your Mac and in your phone.
Yeah, nice.
And what's cool about Apple Shortcuts as well is that exact workthlow I just showed you on my phone, it works on your Mac.
That's cool.
And it's super cheap because it's just raw API usage.
Yeah, love it. I don't think people are familiar with the speech-to-text that ElevenLabs has. That's rather new, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I have a curious question. I admit I haven't tried it yet. I've done long transcriptions on videos and diarization and all the bits. So I wonder if you could just quickly go through. So some of the limitations of just using something open source like Whisper are actually like context length.
Yes.
Or Gemini. Gemini is great on input tokens, not output. So you can't just say, here's a 2-hour video, give me the whole transcript. It'll stop halfway.
Yeah.
Do you break through that?
Yeah.
Okay,
100%.
cool.
And the interesting thing, particularly for something like this with podcast transcripts, is small errors compound dramatically because it will shift the output such that like it will end up, if it makes a mistake early on, often it will be misaligned then for the entire podcast. And you have to like go through. So we built the world's best speech-to-text model called Scribe. And it still beats, I think OpenAI released a new model recently, still beats that. It still beats Gemini.
Do you do diarization, which is, for those who don't know, delineating of the different speakers?
Yeah, so it does excellent to diarization. It also does character-level timestamps.
Cool.
So that you can
now you lip sync
level.
And you can do apps on that data.
So you can do character-level, word-level. Cool. So if you're thinking like, Joe's podcast, let's do an automated pipeline to make caption-style videos. Like, it's fantastic for doing that.
Can I give it a bag of terms like custom brand names and technical terms to hint the AI?
Yeah. Cool. But actually, it does. It gets words like ElevenLabs, right? One of my colleagues is called Thor. His full name is Thorsten. It gets words like that straight out of the book. We'll have to definitely try out with this transcript.
What about in the diarization? Can you use the LLM to natively in the one-shot context to figure out the names of the speakers in context?
I think that's done after. I think it just says the speaker name. I need to double check
just a number and ID.
It'd be great.
Hi, Luke, and then you speak, and it knows that you're Luke, right?
I'm not sure we have that built. Maybe we should.
Cool.
We most likely should.
It's a convenience thing for developers.
Yeah, maybe built into the SDKs could be a pretty cool one.
Character level timestamps, and it's accurate. It's good
super accurate.
That's amazing.
The other cool thing is it does audio events. So it does like laugh, it does
really?
Cough, it does blah. So say you want to like automatically extract any coughs, you could.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, to get rid of them, right.
Yeah.
So you could do jump cutting essentially at that level.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of the timestamping on some of the others aren't that accurate. And so your subtitles won't exactly match the words. And therefore, you can't do automated jump cuts.
The other cool thing about this was the way we trained it. Like, actually, we speak English, we're fluent in English. We're very lucky to be in English. Because if you're a different language, like a more niche language, lots of transcription just doesn't support you. So any sort of conversational AI, any sort of transcription, medical transcription, none of those will work. And when we built this model, we were the first one to make transcription actually feasible in massive languages like Gujarati or Malay or Serbian. And it's like suddenly, if you were this, say, medical transcription app, you're like, oh wow, my TAM's got bigger. I can now like launch an entire Serbian sales team. And we're the only people to actually have Serbian support.
Yeah, cool. I'd love you to show us the conversation AI API stuff. I don't think most people are familiar with that. And voice agent stuff is really blowing up right now. It's super exciting. I think the people just haven't connected the dots that like, actually, no, the best text-to-speech that's best and fast as well, natural, etc., is actually, you can compose this into useful apps today.
Yeah.
With actually no coding.
No.
But there's also an interface to that. Could you walk us through to show us that? It's 100%. Amazing.
And if you're interested for a fun tidbit, when I first started ElevenLabs, Matty laid out this big vision. And he's like, one of the things we're going to do is conversational AI or voice AI agents. And I was like, never work. The latency is too high. He's like, well, I think let's just give it a few months. Sure. And I was completely wrong.
Interesting, it makes a huge difference. What is the number of milliseconds of delay that you need to achieve to get a reply back that feels human?
Yeah. What's interesting about this, well, I think there's like the concrete numbers is like it needs to be really less than a second.
Sure.
But if you think about what customers actually want, like the job to be done of certain calls, there's different types of calls. With companion apps, super important that it's low latency, super like emotional, it matches you. And like we're doing lots of work on that side.
Cool. Which we haven't seen out yet.
No. We've got new models in the works. Research timelines are always hard, but there's more coming. But I mean, we're already powering some pretty big companion apps.
So latency, realism, emotion, these are all important for conversational and interactive building trust.
Yeah, but the other angle as well is like loads of people use it in a business context. So say customer support or sales. And actually what you want is normally like a quick reply, which is like, let me look into that for you. Yeah. But then it's really almost about like the RAG bit.
Yes.
And actually normally with a customer support call, what you're trying to do is like solve the user's problem.
Yeah.
And there, what you care about is like overall time to solve their problem more so than that first. But you still need both.
Yeah. If I'm going to do a really good quality answer, I don't expect a human to have the answer instantaneously. Go off and do a little thinking. We look some stuff up, and then come back. And a multi-agent RAG retrieval will do, obviously multiplex and a judgment and a report gen and then summarization. And that's the part that's spoken. And maybe ask a question. Then give me the rest interactively. It's almost like there has to be a few threads going. And one is like I'm in the moment with you, conversing with you, has to be attentive, quick, friendly, while also background processing the retrieval. So are you – do you first of all, the system that you've built, does it expose that to me? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So 100%. I can system prompt what this is first level interaction will be like, and I can go kick off some background stuff, come back and push it into the context.
So we have a fully integrated RAG pipeline where you can actually like chuck in, huge number of documents and it will do all the RAG stuff for you. But kind of zooming out, why we built this is we work with like lots of small customers as well as some of the biggest enterprises in the world, like Perplexity or Time Magazine. Yeah. And we literally had about 20 customers over the space of 2 months saying, great, we're taking your text-to-speech and we're taking speech-to-text, we're merging those together with term-making model. Like, have you got any tips for latency and blah, blah, blah. And about the 20th time of helping people implement this, we were like, okay, let's like
put it together.
And the bit we're trying to do is we have like 2 modes you can use it.
Yeah.
One which is like hardcore engineer mode, which is like, I just want ElevenLabs to do all the voice stuff. Mm-hmm. So we do voice in, turn taking, but you're the brain, and it's literally just like webhooks or WebSockets to handle the and it abstracts it all to text in, text out.
Yep.
So let's say you're a big enterprise, you have 1,000-person engineering team building out all your text-based solutions. You can very quickly wrap this, and suddenly you have a voice system. And then the other bit is we have the much more feature-complete version where you can do proper RAG and we have evals. But I can talk you through some of that.
Yeah, and I almost think of that other case, the simpler one is like something that SMB might use.
Yes.
It's like, we've got a WordPress blog and a knowledge base. And like your tools makes it super easy just to kind of like load up a RAG.
Yes.
Personality define an agent and then actually ship it with JavaScript on the website.
Yeah.
Right? All of it. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I built a couple last night.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What did you build?
Cool. Well, I built an AI Tinkerer's frequently asked questions.
Very cool.
And it was, I have to admit, there's a little bit of tuning needed, in the system prompt, and that I didn't quite, because I put our frequently asked questions, I don't know if you've read, it's very specific. It's very opinionated.
Yes.
And there's a question.
As all the best communities
questions like, literally like, I'm a Harvard MBA. I sold my company for $500 million. I'm not technical, but I've got a groundbreaking idea and I would be a real asset to the community. I'm super well connected. I just want to go and you should make an exception for me. And it's like, no.
Yes.
And then, so I built an agent with that whole repo of like questions and I asked that question or something similar. And it was like, well, maybe you might be of value to us. Let's see. Why don't we try once? And it was like, no, and so it made me feel like there's some RAG tuning that either I have to do or something.
And you have full access to the system prompt to do that.
Yeah,
by the way, did you integrate client tools as well?
I looked at the webhook for that and I thought about, and I think if I did that, I'd get exactly what I want.
Well, actually, I was thinking, so I think you should be able to solve your problem just through the system prompt because you can select any model. You could do Anthropic, you can do Gemini, you can do open it.
You know what I did with the system prompt? So rather than actually solve the problem I described, is I was like, okay, now I want you to spell every word in a Boston accent. And I used an ElevenLabs like gruff voice, and I tried to make it sound.
Yeah, the voices are amazing.
Just as fun.
Finding a voice. Well, Joe, you should clone your voice.
I don't know.
Genuinely. And use that. We can actually demo. I've got my voice in this platform.
Well, I have a lot of emails for the organizers that are me, that aren't me.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get into it. But to show you the, it's a pretty cool demo. I'll just show you if you want, which is, and then we can jump into how you build these after.
Yeah.
There's actually two modes of tools. We have like server-side tools.
Yeah.
But we also have client-side tools. Mm-hmm. And so this can run, execute JavaScript on your behalf or it just returns which tool to use in the args.
Yeah.
But you can have it do stuff like switch the page. Mm-hmm. So you can be like, I'd love to go to a meetup in Warsaw, and it'll take you immediately to the page. And then it goes, great, give me a quick summary of yourself.
Yeah.
And then it could pre-fill the entire thing for you,
cool.
Which could be pretty cool. But just to show people that one.
Yeah.
Hey there, I'm Alexis from ElevenLabs Support. How can I help you today?
Yeah, hey Alexis. Can you tell me more about conversational AI?
Sure thing. ElevenLabs Conversational AI is a platform that allows you to deploy customized conversational voice agents. It combines speech-to-text, language models, text-to-speech, and...
Can you tell me a bit more? Can you show me the client-side tools?
Okay, I can tell you more about client-side tools. Client tools enable your assistant to execute.
Perfect. And now actually take me to the page.
Events or sending...
Oh, take me to the page.
Do you want to be taken to the documentation page about client-side tools?
Yeah.
Is this part baked in with the JavaScript widget, the navigation aspect, or do I have to build that?
I think I may be the tricky bit where it's still, let me just get it.
Okay.
Yes, take me to the page. Let's see. There we go. And that's jumped to the actual page. Isn't that cool? Yeah, I'm not sure. We definitely have in our code, in our docs, we actually have that, how to implement that.
Okay.
So you can just grab it and paste it in.
Okay.
I think we do probably a little bit asking you to do that bit in case you want to do certain things.
This is the exciting thing for me.
Yeah.
I've thought a lot about the platform we built for Tinkers has so many functions from invoicing and scheduling and emails and screening and data, and that why build more UI? It's just getting more complex. If I can expose the primitives through tools to something like that, our users are familiar with what's available, and if they have a good experience, I think they'll quickly ask to do the right things, right?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
100%.
Very interesting. And it's, voice is the best mobile app experience if you really have a great one that's smart.
100%. I'll just show very briefly to create one. What you can do is you can name your agent. So say we've got, should we do a AI tinkerers? We can try and do a quick, we'll do a support agent, maybe bring in a bit of AI tinkerers stuff in it.
Sure.
And then you click create. And straight away there, you actually have a support agent, which is ready to go. Mm-hmm. You can select the voice. So should we try doing it with my voice? It carries. So I did my own voice clone recently, which is pretty fun. And then, hi, I'm Luke from ElevenLabs, Luke Harries from ElevenLabs Support. And I'm just entering this information into the system prompt and the first message. You can also do, as we discussed, like client-side tools. You can do an end call. So at the end of the call, it sends gives the ability to end the call, but you can also do like a webhook when a call ends. You can send transcript your own knowledge base.
Nice.
And then any other bit, I think that's probably here's the widget if you want to add it to your own site.
And we didn't talk about that. You can import a Twilio number. So you get a number on Twilio. There's some auth workflow that makes it easy to put in. That's really
cool. And you can do both inbound calls, you can do outbound calls. We have batch outbounding calls. So say you wanted to ring up all the people going to the AI Tinkerers thing tonight to give them get them hyped for it.
Sure. I think for like the VIP dinner experience, I think it's a better way. And you could do a quick interview like, hey, what are some topics that you'd like to talk about, and just stream that through back to the sponsor with a summary. I'm going to build that. That's what I'm doing on the building that on the the airplane when I go back.
The other cool thing is, what I really love about voice is it's so much quicker for data collection and so much easier. Do you imagine if we had done this podcast and it was just in a Google Doc? It would taken us hours, so much more boring. Instead, you could phone people ahead of time. What are the topics top of mind? What are the things how could you be helped out during this dinner? And then like synthesize that, matchmake everyone. But
particularly, I'm pretty bullish on the emotional stuff. I can't wait for that from ElevenLabs. And there have been some other experimental things, and even back in the day, I don't know if you remember. It was Tortoise. Do you remember Tortoise?
Yes.
Tortoise was incredible.
Yes.
Before ElevenLabs.
Yeah, that was a step change too.
Yes, and it was, you were able to do emotional stuff if you gave it inputs. For me, that was just exciting. But when you're talking about like engaging a human to like provide a bunch of useful information, that engagement is super important for conversion, right?
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that. You can definitely achieve it with ElevenLabs by cloning, but if we're promptable on that stuff, I think it's a game changer.
Yeah. Hope some cool stuff in the works. Just to show you my own voice clone, and your audience may enjoy seeing the quality of the voice clones as well. Yeah. Hey there, I'm Luke Harries from ElevenLabs Support. How can I help you today? Hey Luke, I'd like you to help me. Can you tell me a bit more about conversational AI, or actually what is text-to-speech? Tell me, what is text-to-speech? All right, I can definitely help with that. Text-to-speech, or TTS, is a technology that converts written text into spoken words. It's basically what allows computers to read text aloud. Does that? So that works, and then what we can do is jump back, and if we click on this top right, we should be able to go to conversation history for this agent, and then you can see the full transcript. It gives a summary of it. You can also write your own evals as well. Mm-hmm. So like, let's say someone like, the evals, they're actually just questions and prompts. Yeah. So you can say like, I'd like to extract this information and grab it all. Okay. And then you can define like success and. So
you have evals built into the system when you're That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredibly useful. And you're running the evals and you're evaluating the eval output.
Yes. Yeah. And the way I would,
that's cool.
The interesting thing about, people are often asking me about voice evals. My contrarian take is like, largely, it is getting better, the turn taking and the interruption and those bits. But like, I think the vast majority of the evals you need to do is actually around the LLM and the brain. And I think most of the just normal like text platforms is where the kind of eval should be doing.
Sure.
And also then
Makes
it's
sense.
so much cheaper, so much quicker. You're not doing all the like voice in, voice out bit.
That makes total sense. In fact, you'd probably want to partition those at scale.
Yes. Yeah.
So we talked about latency. You're already really pretty dang fast. In fact, I met someone, Hippocratic.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So founder there did a meetup in Palo Alto for tinkerers and showed this at the time, this was a year and a half ago, okay? And it was definitely the fastest voice. And I was pretty deep on all the things open source and different, including ElevenLabs. And when he showed that, I was like, this is the best I've seen in terms of naturalness, speed.
Yes.
I was like, and so we asked him what he was using. And when he said ElevenLabs, I was surprised.
Yes.
I was like, what? Because I was that familiar with the latencies that I was like, you must have a special dose. Like, oh, yes, we have we got it. This is a long time ago. But clearly all that speed has come to the platform because it's just as fast now. So we talked about latency, how important it is. We talked about expressiveness. Sounds like you got stuff coming. I won't press you on it to get you in trouble. Turn detection. What are you doing there? That seems like a really important one too.
Yeah, we've just shipped a new so we're releasing very soon our like conversational AI 2.0, which is there's been a whole bunch of new features we've shipped, namely the built-in RAG and the better turn-taking model. And what we've moved to is our own custom model, which feeds in 2 layers of input. So one is voice and audio, and the other is like semantic word level. So what's quite interesting, I do this thing where most weekends I walk around a park and I speak to our conversational AI system and I get it to help me like reflect on my week.
Oh, cool.
And with the first couple of versions, it's like, what was the highlight of your week? And you're like, yeah, great question. And then it goes, Luke, are you still there? And you're like, no, I'm like, I'm trying to think.
Right,
like,
true.
clearly I'm still thinking. But you know that from like the semantic word layer of it.
Good. That's a huge improvement. Yeah, I know that feeling. It's attention.
Yes.
It's worked for me to kind of keep the AI to be with me.
I got really good at saying, and then it wouldn't interrupt
It's like walking. It feels like walking a dog that's not quite trained.
Yes.
You have to be too much in the moment.
Yeah, but no, that should
great.
be solved.
That's wonderful to hear. Okay. Talking about go back to popping up to ElevenLabs, the tremendous growth. I can imagine early on that a lot of it was just tinkering and playing, and it's like almost like a new form of entertainment to use voices and AIs and interact with them.
Yeah.
But now we've got clearly people using it for customer support. What are the growth drivers right now? What are the actual real world use cases where you're seeing, is it the stuff that I would expect to hear support? Are there any unexpected modes that are interesting?
The one which I think is really surprising. Yeah, so the obvious ones are like support and sales.
Yeah.
The one which I think is really surprising is education.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think for years in like the tech VC space, just no one view education companies as like actually venture-backed investable businesses. But what's fascinating is as soon as you start integrating proper AI and voice, the quality level improves so much. You can deliver on so much more. You can like properly have a like hour-long experience or get way better at language learning.
Does that look like people just using it directly as consumers or baking it into education platforms as a mode?
So for us, with our conversational AI, is nearly always we sell to businesses who create these incredible end experiences. Yeah. So an example would be chess.com.
Okay.
So they have an app with Professor Wolf, which will give you like interactive chess lessons and speak you through it.
Fun.
So that's a really cool one. There's another one, like a whole bunch of the language learning apps are using us.
Yeah.
So like Practica is one example, but some of the biggest use us and like creating properly interactive things. And my wife is French. I've spent thousands of pounds, thousands of dollars having like one-on-one French lessons.
Yeah.
And every time it was like, oh, you need to be there at a certain time. Their internet's bad and blah, blah, blah. And now it's just like on demand. You have a fantastic French tutor.
I think the quality of the education we all have experienced with the models, the quality of the conversational is not quite there yet. In terms of experiencing it, like I think that these things we talked about, latency, turn detection, emotional especially, are going to be a game changer. Whatever we've all experienced with these tools so far, it's a whole other standard deviation of like consumption that will happen, in my opinion. And I say that partly because of some of the other things that you've seen,
Yes.
I mean, I'll mention Sesame only because I know they've come to your meetup, the Tinkers meetup in London, which I didn't say. Luke is now the organizer for AI Tinkers London.
Yeah,
I'm
honored. I've got big shoes to fill.
Cool.
Louis did a fantastic job.
So we've had the founder of Sesame come into that meetup for a while, and we have the founder of the other founder of Sesame lives in my end of the world in Bellevue, Washington, and comes to the Seattle meetup. But that system kind of blew my mind. The emotionality, I think, was the best I'd experienced.
Yes.
Before they cut it down to I think you get 2 minutes. When they first launched it was an hour. And I had hour-long conversations with this thing, multiple, driving, working out, where I'm getting entertained, I'm genuinely laughing.
Yeah.
Like the content's just, where they're using Gemma, Google's open source model, whatever.
Yeah.
But because the voice emotional response is so adapting to me and engaging, it's going to lead to the few things. One is this uptick in usage, I believe.
Yeah.
That once you experience that, there's no going back. And therefore, for this case of chess education or anything, it's going to be that much deeper and better. And then two is this hard to predict, but in the same way that social media became addictive and took over and maybe is not the best thing, AI companions are real.
Yeah.
This is happening.
What's interesting is I would argue at the moment AI is the only modality that can actually make you feel something.
Yeah.
So it can really make you laugh.
Yeah.
It can make you cry. It can make you scared. I'm not sure if you've heard of any of our ASMR voices, but they properly give you the tingle on your neck. Well, I don't have that yet for AI poetry, AI short stories, AI images. I think that will come, but that's very cool. And it's just going to get better and better. There's a
fascinating, fun. I'm sure you've played with the music products, the sound generators.
Yes.
I don't know if that's an area that you guys have. I'm sure you've thought about it.
Yeah.
Endless entertainment on those, of course, which is I think most of the consumption must be just personal fun and friends. But I've tried to use those systems to actually just create dialogue. Have you done this?
No, I haven't done that. What have you done?
So instead of prompting for music, prompt and be very specific in your prompt, stand-up comedy routine, small club, microphone, crowd noise, and have it try to generate comedy.
Wow, that's
fun.
Very cool.
That's very fun.
The interesting thing is if you think about audio as a modality, you do end up. So we currently have a sound effects model. We have a text-to-speech model. We have. But I could definitely imagine a world of more and more becoming, to digress slightly. If you think about audiobooks and what's an audiobook, it's normally one person reading out an entire book with no special effects, no sound effects, and only one character. You're listening to Harry Potter with Stephen Fry playing both teenage Hermione and teenage Harry Potter. And the future, which I could really imagine is, particularly of audiobooks, is and we're trying to build this with our studio product. You feed in a PDF and it goes, okay, these are all the different people. Okay, this is where we should have suspense music and this particular sound effect. And I think that's really exciting for just audio overall.
Yeah, it is. You think about, sometimes you see museums have done that with their audio thing.
And there are audio dramas, but they're so rare and the production
the cost
quality,
of production's crazy. And then it's not that good, actually.
Yes. Yeah.
So he's kind of tragic because they spent a lot and it's not that good.
Yeah.
It's not Hollywood.
There's an interesting thesis we have, which is the creator will become the consumer.
Yeah.
So currently, lots of people spend hours and hours manually creating these audiobooks. And I think that will work for the real big blockbusters with the fantastic, with when you get a voice like Stephen Fry. But I think more and more it will move to the end user having content dynamically generated on the fly, exactly, they're I love this voice and this voice in my language, say it's Serbian, and then it's just generated live for you.
Yeah, that'll be fun. It's great to see that, and so automated, so you could have it, your cake and eat it too. So we've seen the rise of these systems. Any unexpected use cases where you're people are using ElevenLabs in this way we never anticipated?
I'm just continually amazed by how big companies are being built on conversational AI. Because if you think about the number of jobs which are answering the phone. And so one example, hotel receptionist in Guatemala. apparently you can build a massive business building AI just for hotel receptionists in Guatemala, because currently they're spending hundreds of dollars per month on a hotel receptionist per hotel.
Yeah.
And so the biggest surprise is pretty much every single niche, whether it's like dental clinic receptionist, whether it's customer support, whether it's sales, like every niche of every country, of every industry.
Right.
I think if you just go really deep in it, you could build a massive business because the amount which is currently spent, and then you use like that as your wedge into all the other tools and workflows and becoming system of record.
That's amazing. I have to say, like, I think from my tinkering in Gen AI and things being so amazing and so much experimentation happened. This was very early on. I think ElevenLabs was also the first where the whisper rumor numbers of the revenue growth it was the first case where I was like felt enormous sense of relief because the number was large. And this was a few years ago now, very early. Before, I mean, now we talk about Cursor's revenue and everybody brags about their revenue, but it was before anything, and it was a whisper number, and I was very relieved. It's like, great, there's going to be big businesses in this space.
Yes.
And I'm sure just from what you described, it's continued. Let's see. Switching gears really quick, and I know this is going pretty long. I don't know how much time you have before we wrap, but back to the start of this conversation, your Renaissance background, right? And so you're not just an engineer, obviously, but you have this ML piece, engineering, growth, product, entrepreneurship. What are the meta ways in which you use AI throughout all those things?
Yeah.
So I've talked to some people around their meta workflow. How do you go from customer input to like shipped code and BRD, PRD, if you want to call it that? Or what is your, because I find that people like you are using AI, AI first, AI native.
Yeah.
What are those tricks that you've
meta
discovered?
workflows are interesting. We've set up more and more of this recently. One I've been really surprised how useful it is Gong. So we have sales teams who are constantly doing these sales calls. And every sales call, there's just like an absolute gold mine of like user wants, user needs, objections, competitor analysis, where you're falling flat, etc. There's so many of it. Well, we have now tens of salespeople all gathering all these tens of salespeople making tens of cool hours of data. And what we've set up with Gong is it automatically analyzes all the transcripts post the call for particular threads and pulls them out. So the, say, conversational AI team has a constant thread of just like, for every single call, this is like the areas of weakness that we need to fix, and then that goes into the roadmap. That I think there's definitely more we could do in terms like I
can envision something that's an agent that's looking at your code base and that and it's like it's literally a 24/7 dynamic roadmap.
Yes. Yeah. And there's this interesting thing of like, if you view software engineering as a system or as a factory, like what goes in, user wants and needs, what goes out, ship code. And like in the middle, you have different people doing different parts and shaping different things. I don't think we're yet at the level where we're fully automating. But maybe to name a few other tidbits of like processes we've done. So one is we've done that. And the other one is then like, okay, we actually sign up a user, they have a great case study. Then we now have this great case study flow, which is we do a half-an-hour call with them using Granola with their permission. We then take the Granola and paste that into a Claude project with previous examples, what makes a great case study, etc. And then that outputs first shot, like it's 95% of the way there, an excellent case study. And you're able to get that because you're feeding in that rich Granola set of nodes.
Cool. That's great. And that's going on the blogs of case study or the website.
That then goes on case study. It will also say like, we suggest you add this picture, and then that goes to our team.
That's great. It pains me to think of all the people who are wanting case studies or producing them in some not AI native way.
I know.
And to hear how simple that is, right?
Yes, it's great. I actually just shipped today, just before this call, like a ChatGPT which is trained on our tone of voice and tweet threads and everything.
Perfect.
And I said all new external customer comms has to go through this because it will like align it, touch it up. Make sure it's all on brand.
Perfect. What do you use for generation at the end of the day? Which Gemini or?
That one, we have a ChatGPT team subscription, and you can just ship GPTs within it.
Oh, okay.
And so that felt like a great way.
OpenAI.
Yeah, OpenAI. Cool. other bits we do. I mean, code. The entire team is on Cursor. I think there's a big opportunity for. For all our marketing videos, we use ElevenLabs Speech-to-Text to speech.
Yeah,
we also use sound effects a lot. Sound effects is probably the most underrated model for marketing and video use cases.
ElevenLabs.
Yeah, 100%. One thing I'm not sure if you've seen is we've shipped a soundboard as well. Have you seen this? Let me just turn back on my screen. ElevenLabs soundboard. Where you can actually looks pretty amazing. One of the engineers built this in a week, but you can I'm going to back up the audio. But it's it looks beautiful. It's dialed on Summer Braun stuff, and you can assign any sound effects to it and keys. And
I can imagine for video games, it's going to be great. I don't know, like some of the biggest budget video games that have ever been created. I'm thinking Grand Theft Auto.
Yes.
Have you ever noticed all the car horns are the same horn? It's all of the realism, the horn is for every car.
I think gaming's going to change completely. I mean, one, you have that.
Yeah.
Two, conversational AI characters in games is going to be amazing. Just walk up to character, live conversation.
Well, it's going to create new genres of games that we haven't even thought about. It's going to be...
And the part which is really wacky is what does an AI first game engine look like in the world of Sora?
Yeah.
Sora and VO. I think it's going to change completely.
It's going to be amazing. Well, let's try to move to wrap up a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm really curious, kind of more rapid fire style. How do you keep up with the rapidly changing landscape? What are your go-to resources?
My main thing is Twitter.
Yep.
Twitter, Hacker News is fantastic. And then Swix has a AI daily newsletter, which, I read that.
Yep.
Cool.
What about, how did you first hear of AI Tinkerers?
AI Tinkerers. I hosted the first LangChain meetup in London.
Oh, okay.
A couple of years ago. And Louis, the month after, hosted the first AI Tinkerers. And I was like, actually, that one's better. So I was like, why run my own when I can just attend Louis? Yeah. And then, came full circle of now have the honor of hosting the London one.
It's a pretty good group. I have to tell you a story about Louis. I get a lot of inbound from the email list of different things, and opportunities. And someone was like a VC. They looked pretty legit, though, in the background. We don't really let VCs into our meetup.
Yes.
But, sometimes it's useful as a sponsor to help connect to a venue, whatever.
Yes.
So I was like, fine, I'll introduce them to Louis, in London. So I did the intro, and Louis' reply was it's on the website now, but it's like, hi, I'm sorry that this is the response to I'm introducing you to this person. It's like, hi, I'm really sorry. I know you don't want to hear this, but we've never let a VC into our meetup ever, including the ones on my own cap table. Sorry, goodbye.
And
so badass.
Louis said a great line, which is the reason why it's the best AI meetup in London is because the least inclusive club.
Exactly.
And within bounds, you want it very inclusive.
And we are very inclusive of engineers, builders.
Yes.
I was talking to one of our builders in Warsaw yesterday. He's one of the most creative, incredible. He was the first one who did an ambient AI desktop system that I've ever seen, and just an incredibly brilliant, creative hacker. And he had tweeted something that kind of went semi-viral in some of these circles that was VC DMs on Twitter, oh, Robert, I've been following you, and I'm really impressed with this about this thing, your product. And he's like, oh, really? What exactly was impressive? So perfect.
Exactly.
It is a thing where I think you create this safe space for tinkerers to actually be vulnerable.
Yes.
It's scary, like you said, launching your personal project. You've got a lot tied into it, and you want help. You don't want where can people find your work, your personal blog, the ElevenLabs stuff we talked about? Can you share some links so I can post? But if you want to
100%. So the main place would be ElevenLabs.io. You don't need to sign up. You can just type in, try us out, speak to our voice AI agent. And then my own blog is harries.co. I'm on Twitter, LukeHarries _. If you want, I've wrote a few blog posts recently, one which is quite interesting to tinkerers, which is how to launch your product, where I've literally done the Google sheet of how we launch our product here.
It's amazing.
And I think so many people are building so many cool demos, and actually that last 20% of if you can push it out there, the WhatsApp MCP, I hope you won't mind me saying, I got this one hilarious email, which was, "Hey Luke, really enjoyed your WhatsApp MCP. I always wished there was a local version of WhatsApp I could query locally. I wish I built it when I was there." And I was like, who is this guy, Jan? And like Google him. It's like, turns out he's the founder of WhatsApp.
Oh, wow.
So like
Amazing.
all these cool moments don't
cool.
happen unless you like actually launch it and push it out
push it out there, incredible things happen.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Luke.
Fantastic.
Beautiful.
Thanks so much, Joe.
Thank you.